The views, opinions, and information shared during the Youth Services podcast series belong solely to the individuals involved. Any recommendations or advice given during the podcast is general in nature and does not replace the need to seek professional advice where necessary. If you are in need of urgent assistance, please call 000 or the Kids Helpline on 1800 55 1800.
The City of Casey proudly acknowledges the traditional owners, Casey's Aboriginal communities and their rich culture, and pays respect to their elders past, present and future. We acknowledge Aboriginal people as Australia's first peoples and as the traditional owners and custodians of the land on which we work and live. I would also like to acknowledge that we are recording this podcast today gratefully on Bunurong country. Hello everyone and welcome to the Casey Youth Services podcast. I'm Tarryn.
And I'm Jim.
And we are both your hosts for today, and we're also both youth workers for the City of Casey. Welcome to today's episode. Being the middle of our podcast season, we thought it would be a good idea to recap some of the things we've talked about and reflect on some of the great guests we've had on the show this year. We'll also spend some time responding to a few questions in our mailbag segment sent in from young people who visit the youth information centres.
Hello, Tarryn.
Hey, Jim.
So it's just you and me today, but in many ways we have more guests on today's show than ever before with our mailbag segment coming up a little bit later. But first, I'm going to do a little bit of a recap.
Let's do it.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Cool. Our first episode this year started strong with two guests from the Man Cave program. Chris, one of the program facilitators, and Travis, one of the young men in the program, came on the show to discuss Man Cave. We learned the importance of support and development programs for young guys in Casey and how the program has been going from strength to strength since it began over 7 years ago. Tarryn, did you have a highlight from that episode?
I think the highlight would have to be like hearing from Travis and his experience in Man Cave.
Yeah.
I think that it's so awesome, that space, and I've been able to see it when finishing up in the youth centres, just the little community that it is for the young men, and I think that it's such an important space. So I really loved hearing from Travis and his experience as a whole in Man Cave.
Yeah, it was a really good introduction for me coming into the podcast as well, having like such great guests. And Travis was so articulate and passionate about the program. And now that I'm lucky enough now to be co-facilitating the program at the moment, I've been able to see kind of firsthand, like everything he said and everything they were talking about in the episode is really like, I don't know, it's right there in front of my eyes now. And it's like so great. It was great. It was a great introduction for me as well, because it was my first episode on the podcast. So I was able to learn the ropes with some guests that were just so easy to talk to and work with. Plus, Chris's passion obviously comes across as well, being one of the co-creators of the program. So I thought that was really cool.
So awesome.
Then in our second episode, we were lucky enough to have Elvis and Annika, two trainees from the Aboriginal Gathering Place, on the show. These inspiring young people shared with us the ins and outs of the Gathering Place, a home away from home for Casey's Indigenous communities, and a safe, welcoming space for everyone. Starting out as program participants themselves, Elvis and Annika now champion initiatives that promote awareness of Casey's Indigenous culture and heritage. Highlights from this episode.
I think what I loved about this episode was hearing from Elvis and Annika, like their growth in their trajectory from, being service, like accessing the service, to now facilitating and bringing the service to community. I think that, seeing that growth and hearing about it, it's so inspiring and, two admirable young people for sure.
Yeah, I liked how they talked about basically being there at the beginning. Mm-hmm. So when the space was I think it was just like a really simple room or building, and then over the years it's kind of developed and grown into this really cool space for them to utilize for programs and events and things. And
they've grown with it as well.
Yeah, and it was the first time we had like just two young people on the podcast who were able to share their journey, and they were so generous with their information and time as well. So it was a really great episode.
Agreed.
Then episode 3 had us connect with Mary from the Young Parents Education Program. This episode explored the challenges of studying while being a young parent and how YPEP seeks to address these challenges by providing a flexible learning environment, providing additional supports for young parents in the classroom, and tailoring the educational needs of program participants removes many of the barriers, I should say, represented in traditional schools. So how do you feel about this episode?
I really loved this episode. It's sort of close to my heart, being a mama myself, and I loved hearing, the experience of the young mother at the end. Like hearing about her journey throughout YPEP and what doors it opened for her. It was awesome.
Yeah, I think it was pretty obvious in the episode how passionate Mary was, and she spoke at length of the importance of programs like this for young parents. And I think it was cool how she spoke to the destigmatization of young parenthood and how that's a big barrier for young people accessing services like this and programs. So I think that was a really special episode as well. I mean, they're all special, but, it was kind of I learned a lot in that episode.
Yeah.
Cool. Then the 4th episode we had allowed us to promote the experience and talent of Nurath Gadkuth, a City of Casey arts trainee and spoken word extraordinaire. We discussed the importance of identity and culture in artistic expression and how it only takes the smallest spark to ignite a passion. Nurath shared her journey with the podcast and told us how participating in the poetry competition opened the door to a career in the arts. We also got a special performance of one of Nurath's poems that was really moving. Yeah, I think it goes without saying this was a really nice episode for us to be a part of.
Yeah.
Obviously, it took a little bit of time to coax Nurath out of her shell, but once she got going, I think it was just so insightful, and she's so articulate and passionate, and just talking about art and expressing yourself and how it ties up into her culture was just really special. And then having her actually perform at the end of the episode, I don't know, it was so moving.
That was something else. I think an ode to Salabia. Yeah, I loved it. And I listened to it over and over again. I even showed my family.
Yeah. And we got some really good feedback from that episode as well. It's just one of the special moments where we could share the journey of a young person from being a participant in something and then leading them down a path that they didn't really expect.
Yes.
And how it's kind of unexpected, but these passions kind of emerge when you've got support from community, family, friends.
The ripple effect of it all.
Cool. And then our next episode, the 5th episode for this year, continued the artistic theme as we hosted Sarah and Mick from the Arts Agitators Collective. We learned how a chance encounter of like minds led to a much needed program for young people. When artists started coming out of the woodwork to participate in the Arts Agitators, the program was born. This program encourages young people to explore their creativity in a supportive and inclusive environment. And in that episode, we talked about the importance of art in society and how a thriving art community makes for a great place to live.
What a great episode that was. Sarah and Mick are both such incredible human beings, and love their work and also love the spaces that they hold for young creatives within the City of Casey. I think it's really important, and I love also, their authenticity and their ability to get a bit vulnerable with, what art means to them and their thoughts on art and the art ecosystem as well.
It was so easy for these guests to really delve into what art meant to them, and it was so easy to just kind of be a host and let them talk about their experience and how when a chance encounter snowballed into the program that it is now, and how special it is for participants and to get the support they need to explore their art and not just in a creative way, but in a professional sense.
Yes.
Yeah. And that leads us to this episode where we're doing a bit of a recap, and we're kind of moving into the next segment, which is our mailbag segment, which I think we've visited in the past. Mm-hmm. And essentially what we've done is go out to our youth information centres and ask the young people in the centres if they had any questions that they'd like answered. And yeah, here are some of those questions. The first one comes from a young person from the Hampton Park Youth Information Centre.
What is the youth centre for?
Such a great question. What is the youth centre for?
So broad, but so perfect, I guess.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things we can talk about here. So essentially, like the youth information centres are for young people. For those who might not be aware, the City of Casey has 3 youth information centres spread across the region and a mobile youth information centre known as the Casey 360 bus that travels all over Casey. The purpose of these centres is to provide information, support and referral to young people in the City of Casey between the ages of 10 and 25. It's a safe space for young people to drop in and connect with qualified youth workers who can support in a range of areas. The centres are also a great place to hang out, meet new people. There's games, programs, recreation activities available, and there's heaps to do in the centres. There's TVs, video games, board games, pool tables, table tennis.
A lot of fun.
Yeah, sport equipment, music equipment. There's a lot going on, and yeah, it's such a cool spot. So it's also important to mention our youth counselling and support team is available by appointment, operating both online and in person at the centres. They provide free and confidential counselling and support for young people aged 10 to 25.
The Hampton Park Youth Information Centre is located on Stewart Avenue, right in between Arthur Wren Hall and the Hampton Park Library. It's also very close to Rivergum Primary School and Hampton Park Secondary College. The Cranbourne Youth Information Centre is located next to customer service in the Cranbourne Shopping Centre. It can be identified by the colourful zebra on the foyer wall outside of the youth centre. Fun fact, this zebra was actually created by a young person many years ago.
Did they draw it on the wall or did they just create the image?
I believe they created the image and then it got blown up and put on the wall, but don't quote me on that.
That's okay.
Yes. The Narre Warren Youth Information Centre is located at 52 Webb Street, Narre Warren, very close to Fountain Gate Shopping Centre and Bunjil Place.
Cool. Our next question.
I believe this one came from Cranbourne Youth Information Centre.
Okay, here we go.
What days are you guys open?
I think, actually, before we answer that, here's another one. It's related.
Are you guys open on the weekends?
Nice. So our Cranbourne and Narre Warren Youth Info Centres operate between 1:30 and 5:15 p.m. Monday to Friday. Hampton Park Youth Info Centre is open from 1:30 to 5:15 Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday and Friday, but also have extended hours on a Thursday, opening late nights from 1:30 to 8:15 p.m. And then Saturday we're also open 11 a.m. to 3:45 p.m.
Cool. Our next question comes from a young person at Hampton Park again.
How many programs do you run?
Great question. The Youth Information Centre team run programs during the term and school holidays. These are free to access for young people in the City of Casey and are based in youth information centres.
Term programs are run each term and are developed based on identified needs and the feedback of young people. These include programs such as the Man Cave program, Girl Connect, Mum to Mum, and the virtual YIC Hangout, which is a youth information centre run virtually for young people to come in and join online and play some games and chat with youth workers.
Is that available every day?
No, 3 days a week.
Okay, cool. It's also important to note how we come up with our programs. So in our centres, each term we put up a poll which allows young people to have a say in what programs they'd like to see in the youth centres. So some examples of some of the topics we put up for voting is life skills, art, sport, games or gaming, music, like social interactions or recreation, and science, just to name a few of them. Young people get to vote for what they want to see and do in the centres throughout the term. Based on the feedback of young people, with a bit of forward planning, we come together as a team and think up what programs we would like to run on the holidays.
We've had some pretty awesome programs that include cooking, where we've done things like sushi making, cake decorating, Nailed It, MasterChef, and crafternoons, which include things like tie-dye, shirt making, DIY canvas shoes, scrapbooking and cross-stitch. It's a lot of fun. And then we also do like sport programs. We've had like a parkour instructor come in and a person from Dance Fit come in and teach us different ways, alternative ways to be healthy and move our bodies. We've also had an escape room in our centres and an amazing race as well. Oh, and the gaming tournaments, can't forget those. Gaming tournaments such as FIFA, pool table tennis, as well as our popular Inter-Yick tournament, where young people from different youth centres verse each other in a series of games with a prize for the winners.
Always a good time.
Always.
There's also a teenage school holiday program that the youth engagement team run, which is an excursion-based program where young people pay a small fee to attend. The transportation is included, so you get picked up from one of the youth centres or somewhere in the community. And some of the activities they've run over the years have been trips to Gambaya World, Healesville Sanctuary, they've gone go-karting, Rollerama, laser tag, and heaps of other ones I can't even remember, but there's a lot. Most recently, I went to, what's the name of that fun place where you bounce on the trampolines?
I should know this.
I got free socks. Anyway, I think that leads us to our next question.
Do you guys do any major events?
So that's a great question as well.
Yes.
So the youth services team is made up of 3 smaller teams. The youth counselling and support team that I mentioned previously, as well as the youth information centre team, which is the team that Tarryn and I belong to, who operate within the youth centres, specifically programs and events, and the youth engagement team, we also just mentioned, who work in the wider community and run programs and events at any number of venues in and around the city of Casey. Some of the bigger events we've had kind of recently was, one of them was held at Bunjil Place in June, we hosted the first ever Pride Formal for young members of the LGBTQIA plus community. The event was a safe space where young people came to celebrate who they are, make new friends, and enjoy some great live entertainment. I was lucky enough to help set up for the event, and there was rainbow stuff everywhere, and it was just a really great vibe.
I saw the pictures. Yeah. It looked amazing.
And it was also done in collaboration with several other local councils, so it was a really huge and successful event.
Yes.
At the Narre Warren Youth Information Centre, we had a Reconciliation Week event in collaboration with the Aboriginal Gathering Place, where community members came to show support of the youth services commitment to learn and grow as we work towards the unfinished business of reconciliation. Also, musical and cultural events are also planned throughout the year by Ignite Entertainment, which is Case's Freezer Committee, with their first musical event taking place in August, with much more to come, so stay tuned.
Exciting.
All right, so that's it for the mailbag. A huge shout out to the young people in the youth centres who recorded questions for us. Hopefully we're able to answer them. If anyone has any questions for us in the future, feel free to comment on the podcast or reach out via our socials. Our next episode will be a very special takeover episode, so keep an eye and an ear out for that one.
And that brings us to the end of episode 6. What a great trip down memory lane that was.
Yeah.
Thank you for tuning in. We hope that you enjoyed it. To stay up to date with all things Casey Youth, like and follow our Facebook and Instagram at Casey Youth Services. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for upcoming episodes. Stay safe and take care.
Yeah.